What's going on, guys? So JavaScript is being updated every year and we see a newer version of Ecmascript, and every year they are adding new features which could also be done using some external libraries which they are now embedding in directly JavaScript. Like earlier they had included async await promises, though those are already supported by bluebirds and all. Let's check what we have for 2020 or ECMASCRIPT 11. So it will be added in mid 2020, or like some of the features are already merged to the master branch of their new release. So apart from all the previous functionalities, we had more, or they have added more 9 methods like String.prototype.matchAll, import, BigInt, Promise.allSettled, globalThis, for in mechanism, optional chaining, nullishing, coalescing operator, and import.meta. Let's check one by one what are those implementation and what are those features. So String.prototype.matchAll actually returns all the matching strings against a regular expression, including its capturing groups. So if we take an example of this string test1 test2 and have a regex, so regex are always little bit complicated, so I am also not so much confident in regex or understanding how regex work, but this is little bit simpler. I can tell you what is happening here. Here it is a group, like it should start with test, it should have E in between, then it should have st, and it should end with a digit. So if I use string.match this one, it will give me an array of, or the output will be an array of test1 and test2. But match all will give an output like it is test1, then what else is matching is like E, then we had st1, then we had 1 for the digit. So it will return a array of 2 arrays. So it is like a group and there is second group. Next we have is like import. So import we had already seen in previous, or like in normal required or import in JavaScript or Node.js application. So what happens is like we need to import at the beginning of the statement, but here we will use as a method, like it will be lazy loading or lazy import. So I don't want to import another file unless there are some conditions met. So it's like a functional import. Let's check. So like if I use if true, then import like service.js and whatever modules we have exported from that service.js, like module dot function 1, function 2, summation, addition, like those you may have various methods which have been implemented in service.js. So we will get using module dot function 1, module dot function 2, module dot summation, and then pass some parameters like 12, and if the file is not found or there is some exception, so it will be handled in catch block. So I think this is one of the cool features which will be added in this new release of Ecmascript. Third we have is like BigInt. So what it does is like it supports mainly number larger than 2 to the power 53, which is 900719925474091, sorry, 0991. This is the highest safest integer in number category or of type number in JavaScript or Node.js. So now it supports larger than this, and it performs all the operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, to the power, division, modular division, everything. Also it supports condition like if, then, or, and, boolean, not, and comparisons also, like strictly equals to, double equals to, greater than, smaller than. But we can't add or we can't subtract or both BigInt and number together. So first we will check how to convert a number to a BigInt. So either we will append n at the end of the number, or we can use the constructor BigInt and pass the number. So it will give an output similar to this by appending n at the ending. Even if we use the string, it will be converted to BigInt. So this comparison operator in BigInt returns strictly false If we try to check like BigInt 0 equals to normal number 0, then it will be false. But if we use loosely operators like only double equals to, which will check the number not the type, then it will be true. Similarly here also we can see those operators greater than, smaller than, and what are the return types. Even we can use the if else statement, so it will be like treated as 0 means false. So here in this case it will be 0, else it will return 12n or 12 BigInt. Even we can check the boolean value, not operator. So not of null is like true. So as mentioned, BigInt and number cannot go hand on hand. So we can see that if we use 1n or BigInt plus number, it will throw exception. Similarly, BigInt multiply number, it will throw exception. So in that case, what can we do is like we can change it to BigInt, or we can change this to number. So it will not throw any exception. Next we have is like Promise.allSettled. So in Promise.allSettled, what it does, it like it doesn't have any catch block. It may have then block and a final block. So everything, either if it is resolved or if it is rejected, everything will come in then block. So it will wait for all the promises or the array of promises to get settled. But in Promise.all we have checked that if one is rejected or all is settled, then only it comes to either catch block or then block. So here we had two promises, promise 1 and promise 2. Promise 1 resolves with value 3 and promise 2 got rejected with value like foo after 100 millisecond. So if we use Promise.allSettled, so in that case it will only return then. So the result will be resolved and rejected both. So you can see the result will be an array of object which will have like fulfilled status means accepted or resolved with value 3, or it is status rejected with reason foo. So it will always come in the then block. Also we can add dot finally, but dot catch is not applied in Promise.allSettled. What is globalThis? So globalThis is introduced to unify the mechanism to access this operator in JavaScript. So why this is coming into picture? Because so earlier, in order to access global object on web, we were using like window or self or this or frames, and on Node.js we were using global or this, and only this is available in a shell like V8 engine V8. So in order to unify it across all the platform, globalThis will be used. Next we will have for in mechanics. This is already there, but different engines have agreed to use the property to iterate and give the same output so that the behavior is standardized. Next we have is like optional chaining. This is another important thing we use instead of like OR operator. So when we have an object of like tree-like structure, in order to get the value we need to have multiple checks, and then we need to get the value, or we can extract the value, or else it will throw error. Let's check how it works. So here we can see that it is in hierarchy adventure. So in the first level we can see we had name and cat, and the second level we had name. So in order to access the cat name, what we need to do is like we need to check first adventure.cat and adventure.cat.name. Then later we can get the value of cat name. So we need to have an AND operator, else if it is not present, it will throw exception. So with optional chaining, what happens is like we can reduce the code. So here we can just use like if adventure.cat is available, then just get the name.name and it will give the output Dina. Similarly, if we try to access, here we don't have any dog object. So what will happen is like with optional chaining, if we use like adventure.dog, then optional chaining.name, we will get the output as undefined. But instead of this, if we don't use optional chaining and try to access the dog value, we will get exception, that name of undefined. So it will extract a property from the result only when it is not null, and if it is null, it will not throw any exception, it will only show undefined, like in case of dog. And also we can check for some method also or function also. If it is not defined, it will return us undefined instead of exception. In nullishing coalescing operator, that is double question mark, which serves as an equality check against any null or undefined. A practical example will give a clear understanding. So here in response we had first level settings, and then we had like null value which is null, height, and then animation. So let's check without double question mark, that is using OR operator, what it returns. So in that case what we had is like settings.undefined, which is not present here. The result should be, let me reduce the size, yeah, that is better. So you can see that it is undefined is not present in settings, so it should return some other default value. But in this null value, like settings.null value, it will return some other default value or whatever is passed in the string or OR operator. Similarly, in head text we had empty, so it will also return false and it will print hello world. In animation duration also, suppose we want to fetch 0, but it will give us the result like 300. Same for show splash screen, it will also give us true instead of false, but we want whatever the value is present here. So for that, what we can do is that we can use nullishing coalescing operator. So how we will define is, instead of OR operator we will use two question marks. So it has two conditions, either it will check in the data structure or the object that value is present or not, else it will return some other default value, or else it will check if that value is null. Apart from that, it will return all other values, like for null values it will return false, and then it will print or it will give or some other default values. But head text is empty, so it is true. Even animation duration is 0, so it is also true. Even if we see response.settings.splash which is false, so it will return me false instead of true because it is present. Let us check this and verify in browser. Yeah, we can see that it returned some other default value. But suppose if I use pipe, so it is constant, we can't do anything, change the value. Okay, so in null case it is same, but apart from null, like 0, then empty string and false, it should return the actual value. Yeah, we can see that it is returning the actual value which is empty. Similarly for show splash screen, I can see it is false instead of some other default value. Even animation duration is 0. So apart from null value, it returns whatever it's contained, like 0, then double quote or false. Last we have is like import.meta. So it is basically used to hold some metadata about the current module we are using. That's all for this tutorial. If you like my video, then a sub to the channel would be incredible. Catch you again later.